The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. This is Brian from Breaking Down Security this week. This is part 2 of our interview with Masha Sedova from Elevate Security about customizing your training. Our first question this week, I asked, and it took me about 2 minutes to actually ask it, was how hard is it to log the information you collect about user behavior, and what does a dashboard look like for creating that profile or that workup on somebody. Later on, also because of some of the questions and comments that we discuss here, we get into some privacy implications because you are profiling people. Some of these technologies can be fairly invasive, and you just want to make sure that you're maintaining the privacy of your employees. So we'll go ahead and get started with the answer from Masha about the question on how to collect this data and how to display that data effectively.
Yeah. So I want to give you the answer if you are like a 50-person small business. Like I don't want to say the only solution is to buy Elevate. So let me back up and tell you the principles of how we started. And this is what we initially built when we were at Salesforce. So you take the log files from one of your security solutions, and what you need to know is who did what, when. Those are your 3 categories. If you can't figure out who, it's a non-starter. But we use email addresses as a unique identifier usually. Or user ID, some way to correlate those two. And so you have your logs from these different devices. Let's say a password manager is one we often find in an environment. So you go into password manager, who has installed it? When's the last time they logged in, so we can track active usage. So you have your time and your dates, and severity is sort of, are you using it? Did you install it? So there's your data set. You can keep that in an Excel file. The next data set you need is your HR file. So finding out name, email, and then some really interesting ways to start slicing the data is department, start date, and reporting manager. So you get all those, and you can start even doing, you combine those via VLOOKUP, and then you can start slicing trends, even in Excel. Say, show me groups by department, frequency of this type of behavior by department. Then you can do it by tenure, for example. And you're pulling these data logs over time. That's 101, Excel, and it's manual. You can take a step up and do it in Tableau, right? And you can start visualizing these. So you pull a report every month from, let's say, LastPass or Proofpoint or Carbon, whatever, right? And you're uploading this to be able to track trends over time. And you need those 2 correlations. You need your HR files and you need your log files. And then from there, the complexity starts going up. Obviously, if you want to start slicing the data around, show me the department with the managers who have lowest risk scores over 6 months, right? Then obviously the larger of an enterprise you get, or you start having much more detailed questions around, where do I need to drill down? Who hasn't been changing their behavior in a longer period of time? Who are my top performers? And often you can answer that manually. It's just how many hours you're going to put in. If you would like to automate it, that's a system that we basically built with dashboarding and all that. But you can get started by pulling logs yourself. And often when we work with organizations, they've been running an in-house program using Excel sheets and kind of burying themselves under it and are getting valuable information that they're running insights in their human risks part of their organization, but are having a hard time keeping up with it.
And I'm assuming you have to quantify it either by this person has caused us a malware infection in the past, all the way to this person doesn't use their computer, or they don't do anything on there except strictly work stuff. How do you quantify that or make it on a scale of 1 to 10, or A to F, or I mean, do you give people a grade? Hey, you're really awful. You've caused us numerous ransomwares in the past, versus the receptionist person at the front desk who is not on their computer. How do you quantify that?
Yeah. So it's a concept we think about as weighting a behavior. And not all behaviors are equal. Like you clicking on a phishing link, a mock phishing link, is not nearly as a big deal as you downloading malware. Right? One of those is going to be significantly more impactful to the organization. So first of all, not everything is totally equal, and you have to start weighting this differently. And nor should I have a memory about things nearly as long. So we do have a concept of scoring. Think about this. A good analogy would be maybe how your insurance company thinks about your driver's insurance, thinks about what factors go into what kind of rates they give you, right? So if you got into a car accident, obviously it's going to affect your rate significantly more than if you were late on a parking ticket, right? So they're not the same behaviors. But then there's also some really interesting data points, like what zip code is your car in, which is equivalent in security to what role are you in. So this is back to, are you an executive, or are you an admin, or are you an intern? Because the likelihood of you causing damage to the company given a certain behavior is much more or much less given your type of role. And so role, department, role are all actually columns that you can get from most HR systems, Workday for sure. And you can start using that type of role to start weighting all types of behaviors across the board. So you can say, if you're an engineer, you malware should have a 2x impact on your score over time. What is most effective, but it's much harder to do, is to back up and not even think about role, but access type. Right. And because I don't actually really care if your role says engineering or PM, what I really care is if you have access to my production environment. And
or source,
that is exactly, if you have Perforce, can you approve a wire transfer? I don't care what your title is. I care about the fact you can do that. And using access, again, if you think about it back to data sets, that is a log file you can pull, and you can map your HR file to, do these people have access to something of this category, and use that as a multiplier for severity of the type of incidents that you start seeing in your organization.
Yeah. So if you don't have, it's going to take a little bit to set that up, because you have to figure out the severity of everybody in your organization. Hopefully the job description have been updated so that that, the people in finance do have the ability to do certain things versus they don't have certain things. The engineer has access to source and production, or just source and not production. And then, the same person who has access to source and production also does a fair bit of torrenting of, semi-illegal, files or something, and that would automatically make them higher risk than, like I said, the salesperson who just, goes about their business and, only does real work and work on their computer, and they have a spare, separate computer doing private stuff.
If you think about that though, like, why would someone, like, why should a security team even care about doing that? Like, that's a lot of work. But if you have that data set and you have that input and you sort that by, show me your highest risk across access type, all of a sudden you have the people you need to be focusing your time and attention on. And that sending those people a video, no matter how funny, is not going to be appropriate to the level of risk and impact. So those people might be a really great set of groups to have like a one-on-one brown bag with, and sit down and explain to them, you have access and historical reasons for me to have risk. And so let me tell you a little bit about like why, like your role, why it's important, and you double down on your time and your energy there. And then there's a whole swath of your organization, I imagine, based on the organization I've been in and seen, there'll be about 20% that you don't even need to talk to at all. They are perfect. They are the people who will never click on a link and are they're good to go. So you can just forget about them. In fact, you should actually give them champion status and give them megaphones and tell them, this is what great looks like. And so you can start dividing your program into highest areas of risk, acceptable risk, and heroes. And that kind of segmentation really starts helping you focus your time and your energy versus the one size fits all training that we roll out now.
Right. So, Mr. Betcher, you work at a fairly large organization. How would something like this work for your organization? Is it would it scale well for your organization, or does it, how would you work something like this potentially?
Well, we have different areas of employees. For example, an acquisition going to be totally different than the mothership, right? So those have to be separated. It would be a lot easier to deal with the mothership because you have common computers, common infrastructure, all that stuff. But then the acquisitions, you don't know sometimes what is in there, especially if they're brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So I think putting that divide in place would be good. Have a couple of people focus on the core company, and then have some people, maybe even more people per capita, focus on the acquisitions. That's what I would do. So yeah, it could work, definitely. But I think the acquisitions would be more risky just because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the security team in place. Sometimes their security guy is their, lead developer, right? Because he's probably the smartest guy as far as IT is concerned. So he just takes over the security role as well. We get a lot of that. We have no security people, or we've got one guy that does compliance, things like that. So it's really tough to get in there in the smaller companies and do that because they just didn't have the budget to focus on security, because security is more of an afterthought, more of an insurance policy, if you will. Just think about it that way. Security teams are insurance. You may not need them right now. Might be good to have in case your house burns down, but really your house is still there. So it's just another expense.
So, Ms. Berlin, you deal with nothing but logs all day. So this should be right up your alley. This is another, offering that you guys could have. It's like, hey, look, we can, spy on your employees and stuff. And, we can see if they've been naughty or nice. We're better than Sandy Claus over here, the NSA.
My boss has enough extra ideas for us to do. I don't know. That's another one that I want to float.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you, Brian. As far as like the acquisitions go, I think only ever one time we've had it work the other way around, where the smaller acquisition actually knows what they're talking about and, has somebody more knowledgeable that comes on board than the bigger company does.
It's rare, but yes, it definitely does happen. It depends on the founder, whether they're security conscious, things like that. Yeah.
And luck, I think sometimes they get someone that's real passionate about it.
Yeah.
Cool. So Masha, you say you Elevate is all about creating this kind of system. This is, we're not doing a pitch or whatever, but if somebody wanted to talk to you about your product, it sounds like there's some fairly steep prerequisites for this. Like, you need to have a centralized logging system. You need to have some kind of way of measuring the activity of your employees' environment, endpoint security, or, everything needs to be in an MSSP, like, what Ms. Berlin's got there, so that you can actually take these logs and do something with them. You need to have job descriptions. You need to be able to, poke at, HR systems to grab, that information, like you said, Workday, or, whatever system allows you to go in and look at your directory structure to find out who reports to who, dotted lines, and what have you. What are the prerequisites if they wanted to reach out and work with y'all to get something like this into place? And have you ever gone, yeah, you're not actually doing real security, you probably should do all that stuff first before you talk to us? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, there's definitely we find that our solution works best with slightly more mature security teams. We aren't the first, like if you haven't put in place an endpoint protection, tool, please don't call us first. Like and some people are really well intentioned. And they're totally right often. Like if I have a really great security culture as a foundation, I won't have to fix it later. There's a lot of truth to that, but you should also have endpoint protection. Like that's like 101. And security culture at that size can be done with brown bags and lunch and learns and like messaging from the top. When you get to larger enterprises, that's sort of where we really come in, right? When you have a lot of security technology. I'll tell you, when I was at Salesforce, we had invested millions in a variety of technology data sets, and security, like, and the human element was still an issue. And that's really where we come in and thrive. It's like you've installed technology, like we can put that to use to actually help your tech stack actually help your human component of it.
It's pretty awesome. Okay. How well does this work for large companies versus, say, small companies? Is there a nice, area where this really works well versus like you've got 500,000 employees or something? How well does that scale?
Yeah. So some of our best deployments started at about 1,000 people, and we've gone up to, I think the largest deployment is something like 30,000 people. So yeah, and it scales very, very easily. Yeah. Once you have the data, it feels very personal. Like in the same way the Fitbit, right? Like once you have the understanding of who does what and how you roll out the personalization, it's an extra email from us because the algorithm on the back end is the same.
Are y'all a cloud service kind of thing where you're sending? Are you pulling the logs from them? Or are they sending logs to you? Or
whatever works, right? We have integrations, we have API, we push to SFTP, shared S3 bucket, you name it. There's a way to do it.
I just put all my logs in a world writable or world readable.
Yeah, I think you just send it to me unencrypted. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be fine. That's fine. FTP. FTP it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna make a comeback.
So, okay, so we're talking about, basically digging into people's activities, which will obviously bring up the idea of privacy issues. How does this keep from not being completely invasive into a person's, work life? And, a lot of people like it or hate it, actually do a lot of, non-work stuff on their computers. And there's rules about the privacy and logging and monitoring over in the European Union and how do you keep that from clashing with the idea of pretty much profiling a person? Yeah. How do you deal with the privacy implications of that?
Really astute question. So a couple of points on this. One, we're not collecting any net new data sets that aren't already in place by the security team. So this is already logging, monitoring that security team's already doing to maintain the posture of the security team. We're aggregating and providing a level of insight that matches with the trends and HR to that same data, but it's not net new, first of all. The second thing is that when we communicate out this risk, especially to an individual, we'll only let the individual know how their performance is to them. No one else knows how other people in their department are doing unless it's in aggregate form. So I was saying earlier, hey, Brian, you're actually 3 times better than the rest of your department. But the department information is anonymized. So there's no way for you to reverse that information back to somebody else. So you get your personal report card and your own personal status, which is in line with GDPR regulations, without the ability to see other people's. So those are the two core fundamentals of how we've built the product. And because of this, we have customers who've deployed in Germany and in other areas of Europe, and work through with their legal departments to run through it. One of the things that's actually been really refreshing to hear back from employees is that it provides a level of transparency. They knew that, like, yes, every time I'm on VPN, it's monitored. And yes, I know that, like, it's a company LastPass, but I've never given the level, like, that data's never come back to me. Like, I don't actually know if you think I'm bad or good. I don't know if you think I'm a risk to your organization. You just keep throwing phishing at me. So it starts creating a dialogue in which with the security team can actually communicate. It's like, according to the things we've had to intervene on your behalf, let's say like endpoint protection or proxies, you're actually a risk to our organization. So we'd like to work with you to mitigate that. And so it creates a dialogue, which is a departure from how the UABA would take the same data sets, where basically, the employee is the end user, needs to be mitigated, needs to be stopped, like needs to take course correction. And there's value to that kind of approach, but we very much use the human element as a resource, someone to enable, engage, motivate, and to become part of the solution, which does help, where the transparency and the feedback is core to it.
Yeah. I just wondered how you were talking about, sending people a report card. I was wondering how, if I was a manager and I got that and I didn't understand, that my employee has a lot of Nigerian prince friends who send him a lot of emails. And what is my reaction as a manager if I get a report stating that half of my department is a high risk for these things? Other than, saying, oh my God, we need more training, which is obviously the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
As a manager, especially, if I'm not at high risk and my employees are, does that mean I failed as a manager, or I need to do a better job of helping them be a better, be better hygienic, users of the computer systems? What is that for a manager who gets those kinds of reports and sees that their department may be completely hosed up?
So I'd say if you're an executive, one of the things that's really important is to model that this is a behavior that's really important for the organization. And so you're not in charge of the one-to-one interventions. I'll get to what it looks like in manager, but on an executive level, if you know that your organization's regularly, call it, infecting malware, there's a couple of options that you can do, and that's what I've seen across my career. One, you can invite a security champion to come speak at your next all hands about why malware is important. Like, you can give visibility and spotlight and the time and attention on this issue so that the rest of your org says, well, my department lead is spending time on it. Like, this is a signal that it matters. You can also do things like, then you have a choice, right? You can either punish your bottom performers, which we talked about this. You could reward your top performers. You could take the opportunity to say, these are the people who've had perfect track records in malware for the last month, right? And highlight that. And so you're modeling what great behavior looks like for your department, and showing, please do more of that. The other side of it is, we can also send out an email to managers or to employee saying, we've seen an uptick in malware. This is really critical because malware costs us X amount of dollar in cleanup and can put us on the front of the Wall Street Journal. Like, you've been delivered training or feedback personally to your inbox. Please do take the moment to do this. It's a critical priority. And all you're doing is messaging that this is important and you should focus. And we are all employees of organizations. When you get that kind of message, it's another form of motivation, truly. Now, if you're an individual manager, some of the feedback would be, why is this happening? Are you too busy? Do you not have the tools? Do you not have the resources? Most of the time, when I've seen it escalate to managers, is because the employee just ignores emails from the security team, and it's just in one ear out the other. And then what the manager can do is just raise that signal a little bit higher.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. Ms. Berlin, Mr. Betcher, we're after the hour here. So any questions, any other thoughts, anything there to add?
Yeah. Masha, do you have any book recommendations? I know we talked about a lot of concepts in certain books, like Thinking Fast and Slow, Nudge, Influence, even Persuasion, books like that. Anything else besides those?
Well, you just took my favorites. That's great. You really make me step up my game. I really love the book Drive by Daniel Pink, which talks about what motivates us as a human being. It's a little bit more abstract. Like, it will really help you understand how to motivate your employees as a manager, not necessarily motivate other security people, but it really helps understand what motivates us as human beings. if you love gamification, I really love the book Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal. And if you would rather just listen to a recording, she did a TED Talk, and she was also a keynote speaker at RSA a couple of years back. So that's a really good highlight around those core topics. And if you want a little bit of a deep dive on this topic, People-Centric Security by Lance Hayden is a really great resource on all of this as well.
Okay, hang on. What was the one before? I'm like
putting you
into Google. So it was Drive. It was Reality's Broken, and
Reality's Broken.
People-Centric Security. Oh, but if you want one relatively short, quick hack around the best practice of applying behavioral science to security, there is a novella, which is online. It's free. It's a PDF called Deep Thought, and it's put out by a research institute called Ideas 42. So if you search Deep Thought, a cybersecurity story, in Ideas 32, you'll find the PDF, and it's beautifully written, and it talks about a hack through the lens of an explanation of behavioral science. Why did the person click on this link? Why didn't they report? And it goes into basically a primer in the intersection of the two spaces, security and psychology. It's a required reading for all of my employees when they come on board.
Huh.
Nice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Reality Broken. All right. So I went on your website, but it says that you're not hiring currently. Is that because of the pandemic, or are you looking for the right people, or is once this is all over and you're back to being able to hire people, what are the kind of skill sets that people need to have when wanting to apply for jobs at Elevate?
So we are looking for a VP of marketing as of recently. So that's not on the website yet, but if you know of anybody who's an excellent marketing leader, please do let us know. We are waiting till the COVID reality settles down, and we'll likely be hiring salespeople in the fall, product managers, and a product marketer towards the end of the year.
Cool.
Pending, giant asterisks, pending COVID.
Right.
That's everything right now.
Everything.
I can't sell anything, so I can't. I don't know how to do that. I wish I could though, but cool. All right, well, that's awesome. So, Ms. Berlin, Mr. Betcher, any final questions before we let everyone go?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Okay, Masha, I went to look for you on Twitter, but I don't see your Twitter handle that I had followed anymore. I'm assuming because you're all making fat bank.
No, I'm still there at Mod.
Oh yeah,
MOD.
I might have been looking.
I'd buy and leave the remain.
Okay. And if people wanted to talk more about human behavior, would that be a good place to find you, or is there a better way of getting a hold of
Twitter
you?
and LinkedIn. I'm more often on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But I'll respond to you either way.
Yeah, I should be more on LinkedIn as well. Seems like it's a little less volatile these days. Cool. All right. And it's elevatesecurity.com.
Elevatesecurity.com. Yeah.
Right on.
Mm-hmm. We got a blog. We got some resources there. You can, if you request a demo, it goes to my account. Another way to reach me.
Nice. Okay. I'll add that to the show notes. Ms. Berlin, tell us what you've been doing for the last 3 weeks since, we haven't seen one another.
Oh, gosh.
Are you still doing all the Zoom stuff online with
somebody kind of took most of it over for me because it was a lot to handle so many Zoom meetings at once. I've never been so social until all of this started. And it was a little much. So somebody else is kind of handling a lot of it for me. With all the other stuff that I've going on. But I can't remember, did I have my new position the last time we recorded?
I do not believe you did.
Okay. So I got a think it's a promotion. It's at least a title change.
President of the world?
No. I am now a senior incident detection engineer.
Nice.
Yep. Thank you. So, I don't really know why that's a good thing. I guess.
Is it like
I'm not stagnant? I don't know.
Is it like the Navy where you get the title change and then you got to wait 6 months to actually get paid in that position?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, I hate that.
That's what happens with startups, though, right?
Yeah.
But I've not been fired, so that's plus. They seem to like me still.
Okay.
And we're growing like crazy, even now, because we started hiring a couple people even in the middle of COVID. So that's interesting.
So, okay, well, I know that there are some people that I've seen on Twitter talking about how they don't have jobs. Do you have a place where somebody can post a job board or anything?
I don't know if we have anything specific on our website. I would have to look, but probably just contact me. Or I know we have a thing on our new and improved website, bluemira.com. It's BLUMIRA.
How would they contact you?
What?
How would they contact you?
How they contact me specifically?
Yes.
Let's see here. Probably Twitter is best, even though I've also been off social media a lot lately. But at InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR.
Okay.
And
right on.
This is the longest I've stayed at home without traveling. And it's killing me.
Wow. I can understand. Some people are used to living in airports and now they're living at home and they don't know what to do with themselves.
I just tore apart a room instead. Like I was bored, so
I saw that on Facebook. You're like, oh, I got bored and I was just beating on shit. I'm okay. Sledgehammer. Mr. Betcher, you've probably been at home too. Your hair's starting to look a little grown out like mine. So
I can turn it into an afro too.
I've given 3 haircuts so far. So
wow.
You must be getting better.
Nah.
Yeah. Mr. Betcher, what you been doing with LogMD right now?
Just finishing up some bugs for our next release. So yeah, that'll be fun when it finally comes out. Check it out, log-md.com to see what all the fuss is about.
Fantastic. Okay. So we have a Slack. It's very active. We have a lot of people doing a lot of things in there. PonySec, one of our folks. I need to turn him into a moderator or something because he does a lot of good work for us. He works with our CTF group. He makes a lot of videos. He's done one on HTTP verb tampering, not verb tampering. It's what is it? The one, anyway. He did some on CSurf the other day and some cross-site scripting stuff. He likes to, run around inside the Hack the Box lab that we have for BrakeSec. And if you are interested in joining him or the Sim Club, which I don't mention enough, Paige and Scott Pack, one of our moderators, runs a sim and logging, get-together discussion where you can, get in there and talk about how you're tuning up your sims or your Splunks or your gray logs or your logarithms or what have you. If you're having issues with that, or if you just want to talk about detection rules or anything like that, you can join us in there. We also have a book club, which is finishing up. I think we're getting close to the end of our AWS pen testing book discussion with Dave Sybuck and JB. So if you're interested in doing any of those or getting on the next book club, which is coming up, I'm assuming we're going to be doing that soon. You can send us a DM to our Twitter at BrakeSec, BRAKESEC, or you can email bds.podcast@gmail.com. We don't gatekeep. We just want to make sure it's, not everybody can just join it and start spamming it up. We do have a social contract. We do have moderation. We do expect people to comport themselves professionally. And we have a no politics clause. So if you are getting tired of seeing all of that online, you can come and have a respite in our Slack. So thank you to our Patreon donors, especially Mike D, one of our longtime Slackers. Started supporting us on Patreon. That goes to paying for our new and improved secure Zoom which is now up to version 5.0. You know, now it's all secure with the AES 256 GCM encryptions and stuff, which apparently it didn't have before. You know, hosting of the podcast, time and effort just to get the podcast out, you know, making sure that we can get out a quality product every week, and we get to enjoy people like Masha who joined us this week. We have a TPub store if you're interested in getting a t-shirt, since you're not going to see us at a conference anytime soon. Well, nobody will see anybody at a conference anytime soon unless it's virtual. You can go to tpublic.com/user/BDS_podcast and get yourself a t-shirt or a mug or some stickers or whatever. We still have not canceled InfoSec Campout. Miss Berlin, keep that on your records. I did get an email or a phone call today saying that my Memorial Day weekend campsite was canceled, but we're camping in the same place that InfoSec Campout is happening at the end of August. So we have not physically canceled the on-site yet. It really depends on what your particular state's COVID challenges are right now. So I'm hoping that by the time August comes around, we'll still be able to all meet and at least roast some weenies around the fire.
I
and
sure
stuff
hope
and
so.
Me too. Me too.
It'll probably be the first time, if everything's lifted, it'll be the first time I get on a plane, I imagine, because I'm pretty positive summer camp's going to be canceled.
Yeah, me too. Or there won't be enough people going to it to make it worthwhile.
So the problem is, like, I already had paid for my Airbnb. And that's like a little bit over $2,000, and they're only willing to give me a little bit of it back until unless they like change their time frames or whatever. So I'll still just go and hang out in Vegas by myself with a pool, because I don't want to just miss out on all that money.
It could be worse, I guess. And, you know, you could always take your kids on a summer vacation to Vegas for a couple of weeks if it, you know, worse come to worse. I know you go to escape the children's, but
But I mean, if nobody else is there, might as well.
Yeah, I hear you. So, just, you know, keep an eye out for InfoSec Campout. We're, you know, we still have the campsites unless they decide they want to close the site and then give us our money back. I mean, I got a full refund on the one for Memorial Day. So, I mean, we've already ordered the campsites. We already ordered the barn where we do our speaking. If Miss Berlin will, you know, make a flight up here, we'll have some, you know, workshops and stuff. So, just keep an eye out for that. I may have to put out a CFP just to make sure that we have some speakers. Otherwise we'll just do it online or virtual if something happens, and we can still do that. But yeah, just keep an eye out, and we'll have some announcements here in the next probably 2-3 weeks. So, did I miss anything, folks? I'm a little out of practice with this. TPub, Patreon, thanks to Mike D, Slack, Sim Club, Book Club, CTF Club, Twitters. I'm at Brian Brake on Twitter, BryanBrake. I don't shitpost a lot. I normally retweet and like comment on things. I'm apolitical, a-religious, whatever's a lot of things. So join me over there if you want to, you know, have some meaningful conversation about something. So, all right, well, I think we can go. Thanks, Masha, for joining us. Always come back. I'm interested in the psychology part of it and what motivates people. Maybe we could have you and Miss Megan Wu on. I know she's done some organizational behavior stuff. She got her degree, I believe, or is working towards that. So maybe you two could intersect and cross-mogenate and you know, talk about some additional motivation factors in the future on that.
That's my favorite topic. Would love to.
Right on. Okay, well, that was it for this week on Breaking Down Security. Have a great week. Be kind, be well, be safe. Take care of yourselves because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
See ya.